one of the biggest events in musical terms every year.
So,
let's begin. I sent Connie an email, but let's begin. And let's begin by asking anybody if you have some insights that remain from last week's discussion. I would think that Walter would have some because of our correspondence in the meantime.
you're referring about our correspondence?
Yes.
Oh, between, well, I had some difficulties with concepts, perceptions, intuition. It's one chapter that is being used interchangeably. I think it was around page 99, 100, 101, where sometimes he defines it one way, sometimes it seems to be the opposite. So anybody can, I don't know the difference between intuition and a concept. Sometimes it's murky to me because I know there's both spiritual events, but then you're talking about subjective reality. He used to regard the subjective reality as an objective reality, and perhaps some ideas.
I was thinking about that exactly before we started this. I wrote down that result of observation is a percept, result of thinking a concept, exactly as Paul McGill writes in the paper about this seminar we are having. And to be able to see the subjective reality and to think about the subjective and objective reality. A subjective reality, you need to have a perspective. You always, it depends on a certain, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Subjective reality always needs one perspective. But objective reality has to have all the perspectives. So I think that as a human being, we can experience objective reality. There cannot be an objective reality. It can only be a subjective reality because we have one perspective, you. If you want to experience objective reality, you have to be God because you have to be everywhere. You have to take every single perspective there is and look at it. So I think that this objective reality actually doesn't exist because it's only when somebody looks at something that it exists. Does that make any sense?
From what you're saying, no, he uses the naive realist and the other one, the opposite guy. So one believes that you cannot know the truth because it all depends on our perceptive organs, our brain structure and everything. You know, the reality out there is what you make it from your perception. And the other one, you know, the naive realist, if he can't see it, touch it, that's it. That's what exists, what he can actually feel, touch, or through the senses. But what is the other one, the dualist? It has to do with the dualist claims you cannot know objective reality. It's not possible.
Well, I don't agree with that. Because
I don't know what the real truth is here. Somewhere in between. Or I haven't gotten that far where he talks about what is the real way of perceiving.
It's right that there's a lot of subjective realism, but the more if people learn to communicate with the energy present, they learn to understand the objective realism. They see the truth as it is. And it's always different than what we think or believe. And of course, it's just a time moment. So in that way, you never can see something, all kinds of versions of 360 degrees all around. north-south or east-west or whatever degree you have. But persons who have learned to talk with the energy, to communicate with the energy, they perceive so much more than an ordinary person can understand, and they can look very far back in time and even forward in time. And that's, in my opinion, that's objective, because every person who can communicate with the energy sees the same things. There is no, what do you say it, competition at all between the persons who can read energy.
I think that objective reality has to be everything. It has to contain everything in it. And then, as a human being in this body, you perceive certain things. They are always there. Everything is out there, everything. But you cannot perceive everything because you are one perspective. I think that's... No?
For that, you can. A person who can read energy can perceive everything that is present. Such a person perceives which souls are trying to blockade to communicate with the energy. They see which souls are present who want to involve badly or nicely. They see the person himself. They can see what the question is about, that the person is perhaps not even aware of. They can see the background and even the very far background of such a question. They can answer everything that the person wants to know about, or the soul wants to know about, that the person becomes aware of. And the person who communicates with the energy just translates what he perceives, and that's quite a lot. You have no idea about it.
Now what Steiner has us do is to respond to what you just said, Pauline, is that you're using thinking to just say what you just said. So he's trying to get us to go back to the basic thing that's true with all of us. If we think about thinking, that is sense-free thinking. That does not depend on your race, religion, culture. So instead of talking about energy or something like that, he's talking about thinking, which is completely, it's neither in nor out, objective nor subjective. It's just thinking about thinking. So it has nothing to do with your senses. It has to do with something that goes beyond your senses. Now what the essay does is to try and posit Frankl with Steiner, where Frankl has limits to what you can know, because we're all under the spell of Kant, because it seems very, very reasonable that we're all subjective in terms of the way we think about anything. And it doesn't, Frankl doesn't go as far as Pauline just went, but Pauline is...
No, and Rudolf Steiner doesn't go as far as many energy readers can perceive, can understand, can see, can feel, can sense.
Well,
it's not dealing with the senses. It's communicating with the energy, and not even Steiner wrote about that. He just knew about it because he was kind of thinking. But I have read almost every book of Rudolf Steiner, and I have never seen him using what we have learned to use the intuition, to use on such a high level your higher inner knowledge that you can communicate with the energy with several people and together see what it is, or see what really has occurred, and to communicate with Akasha and to just know what really happened in history, because it's all somewhere, those ideas and those concepts and those history things, and we can communicate with this energy and see what really happens in history, or what really will come forward when we continue.
I think that what you were talking about, Andrew, the thinking about the thinking, I get a few questions then, and I was thinking about that yesterday, so I wrote them down. But if you are able to be thinking about your thinking, then the questions come up. If I am not my thoughts, and I am not my feelings, and I am not my body, and I am not my mind, then the question is, who am I? Where am I? And what am I? So I wrote it down, and I will show you. This is my questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
When we start answering those questions, that's when we will know what objective reality is, because it's, as far as my consciousness extends, if I am energy reader, or if I am Andrew Flaxman, or if I am Gordana Bierna, we all have our consciousness expanding out. It depends on how expanded our consciousness is. That's our objective reality, what we can perceive in it, in either or other ways. That's how I think about it.
that's the question that people will not ask. You know, who am I? What is a human being?
Don't ask now. But in fact, you are just a part of a monad. In fact, you're just part of a monad, and every woman around now, which I see, is in reality more male, and the males around, Walter and Andrew, you have a female inside, which is more your inner self than you think you are as a male. So you are more a female inside, and that has to come out. When I ask
to be a balance.
So people who can see me in the way I am, they see kind of person like the White Wizard in The Lord of the Rings, because that's who I am in reality. And the people who perceive me with the senses see me as a female, as Pauline.
I like that thought.
So
I miss your beard, but I like it.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't heard from Kathy. Kathy, can you ask a question or make a comment about this conversation?
I'm mostly just absorbing all of this, but there was something that Gordana said last week that kind of touched on something Pauline said this morning. When Pauline was saying that it's all out there and around us, and we can see it all and sense it all, and Gordana had said last week that it's like you're in the darkness and it's all out there, and you're only perceiving what you're putting your focus on, what you're shining your light on at any one point in time. And it's almost like the two of you are saying the same thing. It's just that it just seems like it's too much to try to absorb everything at once. It's like you have this huge estate and this huge castle, and you can, and it's all there for you, but you can only experience one chunk of it at a time as you walk around. So in any one given day, you can only go check out the gardens, or you can only go check out the, one wing of your estate, and so that's kind of what you're focusing on, but it's all there for you. So it's like you guys were saying the same thing, but kind of in different ways. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
I agree. I think you are right.
It does. It actually does. I think that to perceive everything there is, all that is, you have almost to be God. I mean, he or she can be present everywhere at the same time. We live in a reality where there is time and space, and our bodies are in this, and our souls can experience everything. But I think that we are limited by our bodies, by our senses, so that's where the searchlight comes from. Our senses and our bodies make us they give us a more narrow way of looking at things. That's why we have a searchlight. When we don't have this body, when we are spirits, then we can perceive everything, I think, or a bigger chunk of it.
And I'm in a session with a person who wants a reading, and the other person is just mentioning his or her name, and further has to shut their mouth, and I am talking because I look, I hear, I sense, I feel, whatever you call it, without my sensitive organs, and I just notice the energy and the question the person has inside, and I'm just reading what I perceive, the first image, and the way such a person is grounded, and how much person he has his own grounding, or how his life has evolved, how he communicates to himself and to others, how his goal is, and then I go deeper inside the details I have mentioned in this first part. And the other just sits and listens, and as soon as I communicate, like I'm doing now, I can't or hardly can see those or feel or sense or whatever you can call it, to understand what I can do or what readers like me can do. So it's in two different ways it goes, this communication. Now I'm communicating with my sensitive organs, and it's completely different. I just see, well, just 3 dimensions, and with the other part in me, when I use that, I can see up to 13 dimensions already.
Okay, what we're all talking about is how do we become godlike, more and more godlike. That's just what we're talking about. Now, Pauline is in a state where she has experienced these sort of things, which used to be common to humanity. Then we lost this in a period of darkness, and now we're trying to regain this to become godlike, but in a way that brings in all of this subjective experience we've had. So in other words, the new form that humanity is evolving to will have the combination of this godlike attitude, but with all of this subjective element added to it. So we'll be richer for it. We'll have it's really what we learned in Rembrandt, the parable of the prodigal son. So the prodigal son is in some way preferred to the son who never left, because we have all experienced our own separateness. That's what we're struggling to get over. How do we then regain the unity that we've lost in the separateness, where we are so subjective and so egotistical? That comes with the separateness. We're so involved with ego that we've lost this ability to go to all these other dimensions that Pauline is describing. So that's what our task is, and what we're talking about, the contrast between Frankl and Steiner, is just that. With Frankl, as great as he was, as fantastic as his experiences were, still kept to that separateness because he was a prisoner of Immanuel Kant, who said you couldn't do what Pauline is doing.
I think that we are all a little bit prisoners in our bodies, and that's why we feel so strongly that our thinking is subjective.
Yes.
Because we don't understand that it could happen outside of our bodies. We don't understand that. I think that everybody thinks that they have a soul when it is that their soul has a body right now. It's a big difference to say I have a soul, my body has a soul, and my soul has a body right now. It's a big difference in that, because then the soul is the start and the body is just a vehicle to experience one dimension of your soul.
Yes.
And that's what we're experiencing now. And if you go outside of your body and start experiencing different dimensions, then your soul is expanding further, or maybe your body is expanding further, I don't know, but something is expanding so that we can understand more of our reality and make it our objective reality because we are experiencing it.
Well, Gordana, I can tell you many persons like me who have done this training I did at the CLI in the Netherlands, which is also around in Los Angeles, because there it was originally from. They can embrace the whole world. They can embrace the whole earth. It's quite easy for them.
Kathy, have you been out of your body?
Very briefly in it. I wasn't even aware of what was going on at the time, but not that I've ever attempted to do it and succeeded. It was more of an accident.
That's
and it's
all right.
been a long time.
There's nothing wrong with those accidents. Those are wake-up calls. That's fine. Gordana, how about you?
I think I learn better by accident first, and then later I go, hey, I can do that, and so then I can attempt it, that kind of thing.
Now, Gordana, how about you?
Well, I did it once when I was 12 years old, and I was falling asleep. And I started to feel very strange. I had a tingling in my neck, and I started to feel as my body became as a potato, and I felt very much in my head at the time. And then suddenly I just felt that I didn't have any weight. I was weightless. So I left my body and went through the window. This sounds really crazy, but I went through the window and hovered over a tree outside my window. And I could see it, I could feel the wind, I could feel everything. I could expand above the tree like this, and then I came back through the window into my body and fell asleep.
Okay,
It was a beautiful experience. I did it, and I don't know how I did it. I just did it.
Both of you are describing experience, and then you can start to make head or tail of the deep philosophy behind the experience, so you have a sort of context. Now, Walter, does this help at all or not?
Yeah. But I've never been on my body yet. So what you felt the same sensation as if you were inside your body, being outside?
No, it was not the same sensation, because I was more elastic. I could do what I wanted to do. I could expand myself because I wanted to expand myself above the tree. I was a child, so I wanted to play with it. I expanded myself, and I almost embraced the entire tree from above. And I was like that, and I felt the wind, and I played a little bit with it, and then back again. So it was different than in my body. I'm much more limited in my body. I'm not at all limited when you're in your soul. It's not that you lose your boundaries, because you still have boundaries, but they are much more expanded, and they're much more bendable.
See,
I don't know how to put it otherwise.
With Pauline, those experiences you're describing, Pauline, a lot of people would go crazy with those experiences.
But you have to be careful, because when you go out of your body, you allow other entities to come in. So the more you go out of your body, the more other energies enter your body that are not from you. And you can only travel or experience what I do when you almost completely obsess or fill your own body and aura with your own energy. And then you duplicate your system, and then you travel. Otherwise, you go out of your body that you have presently on Earth, and the feeling can be quite nice, I agree, but you are just in the state before you entered the body you have now on Earth, and that's a nice time just between this and the next lifetime. but it's quite dangerous if you know about entities who like to obsess your physical body and to learn from it. It's quite dangerous. For example, we have a prince, Riso, who has had a ski accident last year, and he is now in coma almost for more than 1 year, and he is just obsessed by all kinds of other entities, and he is only for one person with his astral body still connected to this physical body. And it might be occur to him that he will remain there just because he is a prince, that he remain there until he is very old, and then finally perhaps may die.
See, that's the trouble. That's the trouble also with drug experiences. I mean, you can get out of your body very quickly if you take these very powerful drugs. But what good is that? So what we're trying to do is to try and figure out how to do this in a very careful, controlled way so that we maintain our sense of self completely, a healthy way that can work in the world, and at the same time figure out how to do it through, I'd say, through thinking about thinking. That's the safe way to do this, to get to where Pauline is.
And Catholics do know it, because when you receive the last sacraments, or when you die, you get a lot of candles around the body, and the light is still on, and this whole sacrament knows about what can happen if something too early enters the physical body of the person who is dying or has just died.
Well, that's interesting, because every time you go to sleep, you get out of your body completely, but you lose your consciousness. But every time you go to sleep, or even if you nap, you will have this kind of experience, but you're unaware of it. You're not conscious of it.
Well, if you are aware enough, you tell your body what to do during those moments. Or when you are vacuum cleaning or ironing or driving a car, you can have also those moments. But you can adjust your body and to know that it has to return to this body, and that it's just that you make it just a copy that is doing those experiences.
Isn't it so that we still, even in our soul state, have a free will? So entities cannot do anything unless you let them do that. And if you have an agreement with them, they will come into your body. But if you know who you are and you have a strong feeling of yourself, when you occupy your entire body, there is no place for an entity to enter.
Well, so that's your ratio, that thinking is. When I learned this about over 13 years ago, I thought, well, this is me, and I possess this body, and I possess this aura. And it was, nowadays, when I look at it, I just found out that my essence, my soul or my spirit or how you call it, was just present in a little tiny part in my aura, and not in my whole aura, and not at all in my body. And that just a lot of other entities possess me. Nowadays, when people look at me, or when I can look at myself, everybody notice that I almost completely possess my whole physical body and my aura. So that's a lot of in between what our ratio thinks and what is in reality happening.
Yes, but we still are the ones controlling our body. I mean, my soul is controlling my own body. I know who I am, if I know who I am. I don't say that everybody in the entire world knows who they are. I think most of the people do not know who they are. They are not aware of what they are letting in. But I think that people that are seeking their own consciousness, that are trying to find themselves, I think that they are occupying most of their body. I don't know. I can't see that, but that's what I think. I don't know. What do you think?
Of course, I think the task in this lifetime is to adjust properly so that we can live in the world in a very useful way. And so we don't lose ourselves in the universal too quickly. We have plenty of time for that. It's to make use of this life in the most constructive, positive way. So, but that entails having some sort of experience. Like, I feel very sorry for Walter because he's trying to use Steiner. And I don't think, from my experience, I don't think it's possible, certainly for myself, I had my experiences first, just like Gordana and just like Kathy. So then you can relate those experiences to what Steiner is advising us through thinking. And then, by the way, Pauline, you know, Steiner wrote 60 books and gave 6,000 lectures. So he's really the ultimate in really knowing all that there is to know, but still being in his body. So, and he is so vast, he cannot really be comprehended, no matter who you are. Even Pauline is not going to be able to comprehend 60 books and 6,000 lectures on all sorts of things about the way the world is. So that I think what we're trying to do is, in a certain way, to relate to this vast amount of source material that we have on every conceivable subject, medicine, energies, whatever you want to say, you'll find it in Steiner if you can handle it. But I would say that's not a good idea, because you'll lose yourself in Steiner. And the point is to not lose yourself in Steiner, concentrate on ourselves and get familiar with just what we're talking about, just what we're talking about, how to expand our sense of self in a way that we can still maintain what we do in life. Kathy is a good example of that. I think Kathy lives a very interesting, I'd say not normal life, but a healthy life. So you're still able to maintain yourself. Walter too, but Walter needs these experiences. Now, how can we advise Walter to have these kind of experiences that he knows is there, right, Walter? You know it's possible, but it's still beyond you.
Yes.
I think that it cannot be beyond you because you are exploring it. It is within you. I think that if you look at it as beyond you, that's when you cannot experience it.
Yes.
Experience it. The thing that you're sitting here and you're discussing this with us is trying to experience it. So it's already inside of you. It's just a question of letting it out somehow, not reaching it inside, letting it out because it's inside of you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I feel when I talk with you, that you're trying very hard to understand it, and I don't think that you cannot first understand it and then experience it. You have to let go of the understanding, experience comes first, and then you might try to understand it. But it's not going to be easy to understand it because the experience will be so big for you that you cannot put words to it. So I think that trying to understand how to do it before you do it is stopping you from doing it. I don't know how to put it otherwise. It sounds crazy.
I think that's beautiful, Gordana. Now, you don't learn to play a violin or ride a bicycle by thinking about it. You just do it, and then you have the experience and you know how to do it. So Walter, something in you is preventing you from, and Gordana's right too, you've had these experiences, but you probably don't want to recognize them. I think we've all had these experiences, more or less.
I was
That was
thinking.
my thought.
Mm.
Is that it's kind of a threefold process. You have to be ready to have them. You kind of put it out there in the universe that you're ready to have these experiences. And then the second part of it is that you have to not have any expectations about what that experience is going to look like. So you don't, you know, that, oh, I've heard somebody else had this experience and so mine's going to be like that, or just have any kind of perception about what that is going to be like, because you could be yours is going to be totally different from anybody else, just in general and in any kind of experience that you're looking for in life. And then the third part is to recognize it when it's there, because sometimes things happen and we don't really connect it because we were expecting something else. We don't realize that what we got is what we were looking for. Did that make any sense?
Yes, absolutely.
It does.
I was thinking about every time we speak about having these spiritual experiences, we have these preconcepts that you have to experience it in a certain way. Maybe, Walter, your way is to experience it through this material reality. For instance, to see the beauty in every small little thing, to see God in every little grass straw, in every little flower, just to see it and to feel what happens when you look at it. I mean, if you sit down and look at a rose and try to see how is this possible that this exists, that's when this process starts. When you feel gratitude for being on earth, looking at every single thing around you and being grateful for it, that's when you open up to these kind of experiences, because then you will understand that this is a miracle, and miracles happen every single day. But we live in a society where miracles doesn't happen. We have these days going on. We wake up, we go to work, we go to sleep. Everything is the same. When you stop for a minute and start to see the miracles around you, that's when you open up to the process. And not, you cannot force it. You have to stop and sit down and start watching at the small things in your life. Be happy for the black ink from the newspaper when you read it. Look at your fingers and be happy that you can do it because you have a body in this reality and you can feel it. Yes. I think that...
But I think Walter is like that, aren't you, Walter?
You mean like what?
You appreciate life enormously.
Well, I do, but I'm not taking the time, as Gordana is saying, to really observe the miracles of nature. I think the processes of becoming and decaying.
Mm.
But Walter, I think that's what Katie told and what Gordana told does make sense. But the question is if you can allow it to remember in your brain. For example, sometimes perhaps you see something in next to you, and when you turn your head, it's not there, but you have already seen it, and stick to that you have seen something, and don't ignore it. Don't ridiculize those things. Just know that you have seen something, or that you have smelled something, or that you have heard something. And perhaps another person hasn't seen it, or hasn't heard it, or hasn't smelled it, or whatever. Know that you have it. And appreciate that you have noticed those things.
I think
and keep them.
You know, there's another element here that we haven't mentioned. If the time is not right, you can't force it. And that's very, very important. I mean, in the work that I do, I see some people just, you do them harm by presenting things that they're not ready for. And they have their own, now my own wife is like that. She is not ready for any of this kind of conversation at all. And it's an imposition on her freedom to force it in any way.
Yes. I think that to connect to what Pauline just said, we tend to rationalize a lot of things in our reality. If we cannot explain them, we rationalize them and we ignore them. And that's why we miss out on things that maybe happens in our life, but we choose not to see them because they're not rational, they're not logical, they do not fit in this reality that we have created around ourselves. That, by the way, is very limiting to us. So when we stop to rationalize everything and try to just go with the first feeling. If you feel that somebody is watching you from behind you, then somebody is watching you from behind. Even if everybody says there is no one, if you can feel it, there is someone. Maybe they can't see him or her. So to acknowledge the feelings and the intuition we have is one of the first steps to do that. And then I think things will come to be more relaxed about it, I think. That's the most important thing. And what you were talking about, Andrew, the time being right for certain things, I think that's very true, because otherwise you feel guilty if you don't understand it or you don't know how to do it, and you start thinking, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with anyone. We all have our experiences when we're supposed to have them. So that's
Yeah, and my task in life is that balance. You don't. You want to present things to people, but you don't want to force them on with anything. But you want to do something to share. So you don't want to go to one extreme and not share at all, and you don't want to go to the other extreme and force anything.
Exactly. When there is a question, you can answer it. And otherwise you have to shut down. But Walter is here with a question, because otherwise I suppose he would not be in those seminars.
And Walter's questions are all very good all the time, without exception.
The question you started off with, Walter, subjective and objective reality, is something that I think about 24/7. I cannot make any sense out of it. Sometimes I think there is a subjective reality, objective reality out there, and sometimes I feel I'm creating everything, and if everything is subjective, nothing is objective, and I'm going from that to this all the time. I don't think that there is something called the truth. As you said, what is the truth here? The truth is what you make of it. That's what I think. There is no truth. Everything is what you make out of it.
I would like to invite all of you to follow trainings to evolve your intuition to such a high level that you can become a reader yourself, because in the end you can understand that there is just one truth, and that truth is for everybody. During all the years that we have had humans on earth, it's still just one truth. And we only learn how to write and speak about it in the lifetime we are living in, to explain still the same things towards people who can't.
What I'm getting here, though, I don't know if I'm getting mixed signals. What Gordon is saying, I have to feel things.
Say that again, Walter. I didn't hear.
From what you're saying, Andrew, the thinking about thinking, which avenue do I take? The thinking or the feeling? Or I have to use both?
I think that you have to use both of them, Walter, because the thinking and the feeling and your body and your mind are tools for you to experience this reality. So whatever tool gets you closer to what you're out to get, that's the tool you're supposed to use. And I don't think that you could have a recipe on what tool you're going to use when. That's something your intuition has to tell you. So those are your tools. You're always having your toolbox with you, and you can use any tool that feels right for the goal that you have. And at this moment, your goal is to experience something beyond this body. So use all the tools you have. It's free. You can use anything you want. Feelings, thoughts, anything you need to use. That's what I mean by relaxing a little bit and not thinking about what you have to do, instead of thinking of what you need to get to your goal. So use everything as tools. I don't know if it makes sense to you. But
does it mean I meditate? What is it? What kind of exercise do I do?
Walter, I've never meditated in my life. I don't understand what that is. I cannot do it because my body won't allow me to do it. So you
Thank you for saying that. I think something's wrong with me because I can't meditate. So it's nice to hear that from someone else.
You brought that up, Gordana, because I don't meditate either.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm sitting there and nothing happens, and I think that's my way of doing it.
They say that it's supposed to concentrate your mind to be single-mindedness, focus on the certain things, have control of your thoughts. So that's what you're supposed to practice, supposedly during meditation.
You know what?
Maybe you need meditate.
Not having your mind like a wild monkey jumping all over the place and then all kinds of thoughts in and out. But
well, maybe what you need to take the opposite approach and don't focus on thinking. Do something physical. Like for me, I like to knit, and I will just get totally lost, and that's more meditative to me than anything else. And I'm doing something physical, and and it's very repetitious, and so you just keep doing it, and it just totally frees up your mind, and it's like all of the things that you're trying to figure out think of themselves on the back burner, and then it all kind of comes back to you all put together the way it needs to be some other time, or taking a long walk or a jog or something totally physical that you have to focus. You're not focusing on it, but you're not able to think when you're doing it because what you're doing is consuming all of your energy, and it lets everything else go, and then it works in a different part of your mind or your spirit or something. It works somewhere else. And
Katie, do you mean
when you quit thinking about it?
Katie, do you mean serendipity that you perceive then? Do you mean, Katie, the word serendipity, for example, a person who starts fishing and puts his ankle out there to catch a fish, he is just in such a quiet state that he suddenly have a great idea. And that's called serendipity, and that's something I suppose you mean. Women can have it when they are ironing or vacuum cleaning. And those moments are the exact moments a person who does meditation can perceive as well.
I think that also what you're talking about, Kathy, is when we go into a mode that we call flow mode. You have flow. And I mean, your soul is flowing through you. When your mind is occupied by physical things that you're doing, you open it up for your soul to connect to you. So what you're saying, Pauline, while I'm ironing, I have the most beautiful thoughts and the most creative thoughts. All the Nobel Prize winners described the same thing, that when they were sitting by the fire, smoking their cigars and thinking about nothing, dozing off, that's when they got those ideas. That's when they felt that their soul came through them and gave them these ideas. But they take it seriously. If you think that you're just daydreaming or just the stupid things popping up in your mind, then you will not see it and you will not feel it, and it's lost. But if you take it seriously, that's when you feel it. So maybe you need to do something, like Kathy said, physical, just to occupy your mind. If you scan, when we scan our brains, when we're in flow mode, it actually shows that our brains are not active at the time. When you're doing, for instance, athletes, when they are running, if you scan their brains, it shows that their brain is not active because they're doing it without thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the flow mode maybe you should be after. So something you love to do, Walter, do it all the time until your brain stops. That's what I think.
Good idea, Katie.
That's very
That's
good.
very interesting, Gordana, because and what Steiner is trying to do is to do that by thinking about thinking, but I'm not sure that that is the right approach.
I think you're overthinking.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
You're trying too hard, and it's almost like you need to just stop trying. Like say, okay, for X amount of time, I'm just not going to think about this anymore, and I'm going to focus on everything else. And it's like putting it on the back burner of the stove and letting it cook on its own. And it's like you're trying too hard until you're blocking yourself by over-trying. And so just kind of set it aside and walk away from it, and it's like a boomerang. It'll come back to you when you're ready for it and when it's ready for you.
That certainly happens.
Exactly.
It happens commonly when, as you get older, you can't think of names. And if you just stop thinking about trying to think of the name,
Yes.
it comes.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly.
Well, this is giving us a lot of food for thought. So next week we'll try again. And Walter, I hope this is helpful to you. It's certainly helpful to me.
Oh, yeah, very helpful. Maybe I'm trying too hard, too. To experience something, it's not ready to arrive.
Yeah. Don't beat yourself up.
That's right.
Well, maybe I have a mental block. I don't know.
Walter,
I want to let it go.
before,
I'm going to let it go.
before you go
I
to
think
sleep
if
tonight,
you walk away from the wall you're up against and you quit trying to break yourself against the wall, then eventually you'll find that there's this little path off to the side to go around it. You know, maybe you're trying to go in one way, and by trying not to do that anymore, you'll find another way. And it'll probably just take you totally by surprise.
yes,
I
I
suppose
think
it is.
before you go to sleep tonight, Walter, I think you should ask your subconscious to help you with some answers. And ask the questions you want to know and go to sleep and see what happens.
I use that method all the time,
Yes.
Walter. It works beautifully for me. Now, I've recorded this whole conversation, and Connie tried to be part of it, but for some reason or other she couldn't. But do you all want me to send you the recordings too?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll do this. And this is very lovely again, and I'll see you all next week, same time, same station.
Yes, same time,
Sounds
same
good.
station. Good luck, Walter.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Sleep well.